Anger is supposed to be this poison which we want to throw at others, but before that, we need to drink it first. So, first, we end up harming ourselves. And as a result, most of the time you hear advice on getting rid of anger. However, does it make sense always to just simply get rid of it? When do we want to do that and when do we want to keep it? But before that, first we need to understand three things about anger. Number one, when do we feel anger? We feel anger under two conditions. One is either when we are threatened, and two is when we are frustrated. Threat, either physical threat or some kind of emotional threat that suddenly you encounter. And instead of running away from it, instead of keeping you out of it, you decide to fight it. That's the time when you feel anger. So it really is a response to fear where you want to fight. The second reason why we feel anger is because of frustration. Let's say we are putting in all kinds of good behavior, expecting a reward, and we don't get that reward. That frustration is actually hurtful. But instead of saying, oh, I'm hurt, you end up feeling anger. You end up really getting angry at the person from whom you are expecting the reward. So, whether it is through threat or through frustration, when you feel anger, that means either you are afraid or you are hurt. But instead of saying, oh, I'm afraid, I am hurt, which feels like a weak feeling, right? So, what's our response? Our response is to fight, to show power. Anger really feels like a much more powerful feeling. That is the time when we say things or do things so boldly that otherwise we would not be able to do. It makes us feel like we know everything, all thinking and everything about the other person or situation feels like it's all clear. But guess what? In fact, what's happening is your emotional part of the brain is totally hijacked by your anger. What that means is the thinking part of your brain is not getting access to the emotional part. As a result, there is nobody to really tell you, hey, maybe you are exaggerating. Maybe your anger is disproportionate to what you are expressing. Maybe this behavior doesn't really make sense. Have you thought about this other side? Nobody is there to tell you that. And as a result, you feel very clear. At the same time, what your brain is doing, it's paying attention to the threat of frustration, so all kinds of negative feelings. Whatever good or positive is coming to you from that person or from that situation, you don't think about that. Anger is this all powerful, all knowing feeling because we are ready to get to attack. Anger is not always bad. There are situations in which anger actually may be effective. I'll give you three examples. One is when actually you want to intimidate somebody. You want to win this negotiation by intimidating the person or showing that you are the powerful one. That is the time when anger actually may serve your purpose. The second time is maybe you actually care about somebody, like a student or a child of yours, and you want to enforce a certain behavior which you think would be good for them. You want to enforce a value, and a quick and easy way to enforce it is through anger. You may or may not agree with it if you are into positive psychology. However, that seems to be working in a lot of situations. Number three is, let's say you actually want to create a distance from the person or from the situation. If you want to break up in a relationship, then anger will help you to keep away from the person. It will kill the longing and all the positive feelings that will make you go back to that relationship. So anger is a useful emotion in at least these three types of situations. And now we come to the situations when anger is a destructive emotion and you do want to get rid of it or manage it better. Number one, if your thinking brain really doesn't have any access to your emotional brain during the anger time, to the degree that you resort to violence or harming, either self harming or against the person or property damage. This kind of aggressive behavior does not really fit into our modern sensibilities. In fact, it can get you in trouble. And as a result, that is one time when you really want to consider how to manage your anger. The other times when anger is not really a constructive emotion is if you want to have a close relationship with someone. Intimidation and establishing power, my power over you, that doesn't really work in our modern relationships as well as any close friendship or relationship. So these are the two times when you really want to think about how to manage your anger. Now, the research shows that either suppression or raw expression of anger, either way, it doesn't really work. Guess what? If you suppress your anger and just don't say anything, in fact, that suppresses the positive feelings also. It does not get rid of the negative feelings, but it actually dampens the positive feelings. And you don't want that in a relationship. If you overexpress, then obviously that may lead to aggression, or even if it doesn't, in fact, it increases your anger. So then what are you supposed to do? No express, no suppress, simply observe. And then there are two tricks that are suggested in research which seem to work. One is distraction. Go and do something else that you like to do and calm yourself down. It helps to calm yourself down. But then the next thing is actually very important, reappraisal. You reassess the situation, why you're feeling angry against that person. Maybe the person is having a bad day, or maybe you can take responsibility for some part of it. You get more perspective. You actually hold the other person in a compassionate light. So, one way you can reappraise the situation is by holding compassion for the person, especially if that person is important to you. Compassion is empathy, to understand the person and to have a wish that their pain be reduced. Once you do that and you go back and talk to the person, then it seems like the nature of your interaction or nature of understanding will change. When it comes to managing your anger in relationships, I have another video that actually will give you 3 tips about anger in relationships. All the best.